Tonight, fears grow in the Clare Valley as China considers putting tariffs on Australian wine exports. And a Broken Hill pub calling for patrons to respect its staff.
From our 7 Spencer Golf Studios, your nightly news with John Hunt begins now.
Good evening. Australia's wine industry is facing scrutiny as China confirms it'll conduct an anti-dumping investigation into our exports. Clare Valley winemakers say the announcement adds to an already tough time for growers.
First barley, then beef, and now wine. 40% of Australia's wine exports are delivered to China, but that could soon be under threat.
While it is disconcerting and we should be concerned about it, we need to keep our eye on the game, and we need to make sure that we're feeding the right information to the inquiry.
China claims Australia is flooding their market with cheap products. Clare Valley winemakers insist that's not true.
I don't think there's any evidence to suggest that the Australian wine companies have been dumping Australian wine.
We can't afford to sell below the cost of production because the government doesn't pick up the bill.
The news coming during a rough patch for the region. A dry July has put South Australian winemakers in a compromising position.
We're looking towards having a third pretty low yielding vintage. We haven't had fires up here in the last year or so, thankfully.
Other wine regions haven't been as lucky, while COVID-19 has also thrown a spanner in the works. Rowan Ramsey is urging everyone to stay calm at this stage.
I wouldn't say no, I'm not concerned, but I don't think we should hit that panic button. I think there's plenty of things we can do well before we get to that.
Despite the uncertainty, Clare Valley winemakers say residents can still support them by purchasing local brands and visiting their favourite wine regions.
We invite everyone to come and visit us in Clare, come to a cellar door, taste the wines, enjoy the environment.
Shari Hams, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Details have emerged of staff at a local Broken Hill club being abused by patrons who are not following social distancing rules. The venue's manager says the incidents are having a significant impact on her employees.
It's behaviour that's not tolerated in any workplace.
Day after day, our staff are getting abused. Customers are aggressive and their behaviour is just really poor, and it's having a really detrimental effect on our staff.
Employees at the Barrier Social Democratic Club say they have been frequently on the receiving end of abuse from patrons. While staff did not want to speak on camera, their manager says the incidents are more than verbal abuse.
We actually had a customer the other day tap one of the girls on the backside twice with a walking stick. I mean, that's just not appropriate.
She says staff are suffering as they remind visitors to follow COVID-19 safety measures. Incidents have involved patrons not wanting to provide details when signing in through to not sitting down when drinking alcohol. The club now enforcing a no second chances policy.
We do not allow this for our staff anymore. We have 10 people that are currently suspended from the venue because of their behaviour, and from today on there is zero tolerance.
Enforcement action of the COVID safety measures in pubs and clubs has escalated, with 27 venues handed fines across New South Wales. Patrons are being reminded to follow compliance rules when entering a licensed venue.
If you don't do the right thing by the club and you are walking around and you're not sitting down when you're having a drink and you're not signing in and signing out, then it's going to give the government's reason to be able to close our venues down, and no one wants that.
Patrick Reinke, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Plans have been released for a $3 billion wind and solar farm near Burra. The development will feature 163 turbines, 6 times the size of the world's biggest battery near Jamestown. The Energy Minister is now calling on residents to provide feedback on the proposal.
In the planning system, able to put their views forward, but I know already from talking to people that this is a project that is overwhelmingly welcomed by the local community.
Submissions can be made through the government's website until the 18th of September. A 25-year-old Port Augusta man has been charged with aggravated assault after police allege he broke into another man's home on Plenty Street in Port Perry's Risdon Park Tuesday afternoon. Just after 4 o'clock, patrols attended the home, where the victim was taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The suspect was arrested at a nearby address a short time later. Port Lincoln Council has released its annual budget with the Pancala Trail Wharf upgrade and the refurbishment of the city's art workshop among the major winners. Council CEO admits coronavirus and recent storm damage is biting at their bottom line.
Paving the way for Port Lincoln's Pancala Walking Trail, Council allocating more than $400,000 for the project.
Which is extending that really high quality trail experience, extending that all the way through the rest of the Flinders Port sites.
The popular trail, as well as stormwater upgrades, received the lion's share of the city's 2021 budget, which was adopted at Monday's council meeting.
Over the next 10 years, we've earmarked $5 million for stormwater improvements. Everybody knows that we still need to do a lot of work there, and that can be very expensive work.
Council also purchasing land in the Marina precinct opposite the leisure centre from Sarans Group to use as a car park. During peak periods in the area, spaces for vehicles are few and far between.
I think as a very long-term view, that land out the back of the leisure centre has also got some development potential, so that in the end the net cost to council of achieving some extra car parking could well be quite low.
With the city hemorrhaging tens of thousands of dollars due to the pandemic and the clean-up effort from the city's flash flood earlier this year, Council says it had to reassess its priorities. A number of projects have been put on the back burner.
There's also been a loss of staff within the council that has caused some of those projects to not be able to happen.
The long-awaited refurbishment of the art area workshop and road resealment also received funding. Ratepayers can expect a 1% rise. Nathan Regter, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Still to come tonight, Broken Hill residents praise for their response to coronavirus, and the South Australian housing market holding strong. Welcome back. COVID-19 testing numbers in border towns across the Far West Local Health District continue to increase. The district's chief executive says locals and tourists are doing the right thing when it comes to getting checked.
It's been 140 days since the Far West's last coronavirus case, the region one of the best performing areas in New South Wales.
We've tested 4,500 Far West residents across the region, of which about 3,500 were from Broken Hill.
Close to 100,000 COVID-19 screenings have been conducted in the Far West, a majority in Broken Hill. The Silver City is still averaging around 30 coronavirus tests per day, with health officials seeing that number as a positive in the fight to control the virus's spread.
Which really is a good number when you consider that we haven't had a case here for just about five months now. So the vigilance in the community is still being maintained.
Testing numbers in border towns are still climbing. Baronga, Wentworth and Balranald are seeing an increase in locals playing it safe. Further into the region, the local health district's seeing a big uptick in pop-up clinics.
For example, this week we have 2 in Menindee planned, and I think we have 2 or 3 in Wilcannia, and of course these are extra in addition to the clinics that we currently have at those places.
Mr Agus says the wild weather around September could see some of the region's drive-through clinics closed due to dust storms. Plans are in place to make sure testing can still be carried out. Patrick Reinke, 7 Spencer Golf News.
New Housing Industry Association figures show South Australia's property market remains strong, despite the country facing a recession. They say there's been a spike in home buyers, which is helping cushion the economic shock of the pandemic.
South Australia's housing market is bucking the national trend. The latest Housing Industry Association report shows the state has seen an increase in activity. Locally, realtors say they've been run off their feet.
The last 3 months have been exceptionally good. We've seen a lot of young people enter into the marketplace with interest rates in the 2% range.
The peak body for residential construction says the numbers are cushioning the financial blow brought on by the pandemic. Federal home builder grants are being snapped up, helping keep jobs afloat.
I've sold a number of vacant blocks with people hoping to take the benefit of those dollars that are available to them.
We've had the second biggest pickup of that in Australia, only behind Western Australia, and we've had at least 150% boost in sales.
They say with borders in lockdown, young South Australians are no longer looking to the eastern states for work.
We've seen a gradual reversing of that, but of course Now with the COVID virus as well, we've had a lot of people actually returning from interstate.
The HIA says the building industry is a large part of the state's economy, employing more than 65,000 workers. However, it's concerned about the future when government grants dry up.
We need to be looking for some maybe stimulus early in the year to promote sales and work for the end of the year.
What's out there at the moment has been a great positive start for what probably could have been a really dark time in Port Lincoln.
Nathan Rector, 7 Spencer Golf News.
South Australia's farming towns are back in the spotlight, with nominations for the 2020 Ag Town of the Year award now open. The state government contest recognises communities who are excelling in agriculture and making their region a better place to live. 43 towns competed for the inaugural prize last year, with Cleve eventually winning the title. Members of the public can nominate a town via the competition's website. Nominations close on September 18. The winner will be announced in February next year. The South Australian opposition says a recreational fishing advisory council should be axed. Labor MP Eddie Hughes is calling for an overhaul of the way the recreational fishing sector is given a voice in policy decisions. However, new Primary Industry Minister David Basham is backing the council to continue in its current form. He says he'll meet with them this week and is looking forward to discussing the needs of the sector. Stay with us, we'll check what's biting in the Spencer Gulf this weekend. And a Port Pirie school celebrates National Science Week. John Perry Secondary students have had a busy few days, with a joint book and science week taking place. They've explored a range of topics through interactive activities, with students getting the chance to dissect a fish today.
Today's classroom smelled a little bit fishy to these students.
In there, because I reckon that there's the heart there.
Where? It's all hands on deck as they learn about what lies beneath the sea during National Science Week.
We're dissecting a fish and we're learning what's inside of it.
Do that instead of bookwork sometimes so we can get out of the classroom and into the lab.
We usually just do writing and we're just cutting open a fish.
Teachers say some are showing potential as future scientists.
Science Week is so important because it just encourages kids to get into science and to stay learning with that throughout their schooling.
This year's theme for Science Week is Deep Blue, and it's a really great theme. It explores a lot of different ideas and areas in our ocean and coastal regions.
Science Week also joining forces with Book Week, with staff transforming the library.
Book Week this year is Curious Creatures and Wild Minds, so we're tying it in conjunction with Science Week, which is Deep Blue, and we know that there are some very wild minds in the science community.
Students have also kept busy undertaking activities across both themes.
Really busy but a very fun week. We've had scavenger hunts, we've used QR codes, we have Who Am I?
Teachers say it's the perfect time for them to let off some steam in what's been a challenging year.
Particularly at a time that has been really difficult. It's really nice to finally get back to some fun activities.
Shari Hams, 7 Spencer Golf News.
A local Broken Hill business has celebrated a special milestone this week. It's been 1 year since the Sufi Bakery opened its Bromide Street shop window to the city. Since opening its doors, they say their focus has been to make gourmet breads and other delicacies. The business owners have thanked the community for their ongoing support. Time now for a look at what's biting in the Spencer Gulf this weekend. With all the details, here's our fishing experts with their tips.
G'day and welcome to this week's fishing tips from Port Augusta, Jaw of the North. Well, that big storm that rips through, I'd be trying for silver whiting out in the middle banks and also along the beach as well. Once you get a big stir up of some wind like that, during the silver whiting will come on the bite. Stock standard squid are just about everywhere at the moment still. Right along the shacks, as always, that last half hour of last light's your best time to catch them drifting along the front of the shacks. There's some snook over around Letty Spit to the old number 9 beacon. Crabs have gone really, really quiet at the moment. You still can get them, but try the deeper water on the slacker tides. And there are some King George whiting over in the Flinders Channel. That's all we have from the Jaw of the North.
Welcome another week around the Gulf Fishing Tips from Port Pirie. It's amazing what we've seen over last weekend. All the guys that's headed out on Sunday with the boats have actually caught catches of squid. Smaller in tubes, but they're really still around. I cannot believe what we've been going through this particular year. What I need to advise you, this weekend's not going to be nice in the weather front. So what I'd suggest that if you're going to go out in the boat, go in close, look at the third creek, second creek area, work around some of those nice holes. You might find yourself a good feed of King George whiting. Always remember to put your squid jag over while you're there, because you will clean up on those. Check for some garfish and some tommies while you're there. And remember, take a kid fishing. That's all we've got this week. We'll see you next week.
G'day and welcome to Fishing Tips in Port Lincoln. Well, locally in the bay here in Lincoln, there have been some pockets of whiting, but crews are shifting around a bit to find those fish. There's been some squid still in the bay, just small to medium sized squid, but there are some better squid up at Louth Bay and also down at Taylor's Island. Out wide of Port Lincoln, down south, there have been some nice Samson fish caught over the past week when the weather allows. And over at Coffin Bay, the salmon have been running really well down at Gunya Beach, plenty of fish in the 2 to 4 kilo size. And also up at Greenlee Beach, there's been some mixed size salmon from trout right up to about 2 to 3 kilos. Well, that's all for this week. We'll see you again with more tips next week.
Stay with us after the break. I'll have the day's finance news. And Britt will join us with the latest weather forecast. Hello again. Time to check how the Australian stock market fared today. And the market was mainly in the red by the end of the trading day. Santos was down by around 5% after releasing its full year results. Iron Road dropped nearly 8%. BHP and AGL recording a slight fall, down by less than 1%. Adelaide Brighton was one of the day's bright spots. The cement giant up more than 2%. Regional Express also rising. And the ASX 200 and All Ords both fell by just under 1%. Time to take a look at the weather across the region now. And showers are expected to continue into tomorrow as we head towards the weekend. With the latest weather forecast, here's Britt with all the details.
Thanks, John. I'll have more on tomorrow's forecast shortly, but first, let's have a look at today. 18 degrees was the region's high recorded at Port Augusta and Whyalla. At the other end of the spectrum, it reached just 12 degrees at Clare today. Taking a look around the grounds, Broken Hill, Port Pirie and Woodner all reached 16 today. Port Lincoln and Coffin Bay both 15. Kadina, Cleve and Adelaide all recorded tops of 14 degrees. Today's satellite images show speckled cloud over southern and eastern SA, with a cold front generating scattered showers. Further north, patchy, high jet stream cloud crossed central parts of the state, while the north remained mostly clear. Now that was today, let's move on to tomorrow, and there is a strong wind warning in place for the Spencer Gulf, with winds in the north expected to reach 15 to 20 knots tomorrow evening. Over southern waters, westerly winds at 15 to 20 knots, increasing to up to 30 knots later in the day. Seas up to 1.5 metres with south to southwesterly swells. Showers easing at Port Lincoln tomorrow with an expected high of 13 degrees. Cleve also 13 with a shower or 2. Woodner showers and 14 tomorrow. Showers forecast for Whyalla and Port Augusta, both with tops of 15 degrees tomorrow. Kadina showers and 14. Showers at Port Pirie, a high of 13. Clare showers tomorrow with a top of 9 degrees. Broken Hill partly cloudy and 14. Taking a look ahead to the weekend now, with showers about the Lower Eyre Peninsula, Mid-North and York Peninsula on Saturday. Fine and partly cloudy elsewhere. Port Augusta, Woodner and Whyalla all with tops of 15 degrees. Port Lincoln, Kadina and Broken Hill all 14. Port Pirie 13. Sunday, mostly cloudy across the region with showers about the mid-north. Maximum still fairly low. Woodner a top of 15. Port Augusta, Whyalla, Port Lincoln, Kadina and Broken Hill all 14. Port Pirie 13. And a quick look at Monday now. Fine and partly cloudy about most parts. Maximum temperatures mostly in the mid-teens with a high of 18 degrees forecast for Woodner. And John, with cold temperatures, showers and possible small hail developing about the mid-north and York Peninsula tomorrow, there is a warning to sheep graziers in place for those districts.
Thanks for that, Britt. And that's the local news this Thursday evening. Thanks for joining us. I'll have updates later, and we'll be back tomorrow night. Until then, on behalf of the team, enjoy your evening. Good night.